Hey guys, it's Coach Gaglione here from GaglioneStrength.com. We got another strong lady on the line today. Ashley, how you doing today?
Good. Doing pretty good. Cold.
Yeah, it's kind of the weather's not great over here either, but we're making do. So for people that don't know who you are, that are watching or listening, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and then what you got going on right now?
Sure. Um, I've been coaching in Vegas for a couple months. I started off powerlifting a couple years ago, got into weightlifting, got into strongman, so I kind of dabble in a variety of strength sports. It's been almost, I think, pushing 3 years now, and that's about it.
Cool. So you do a little powerlifting, a little weightlifting. Do you ever dabble in like strongman or anything like that too?
Yeah.
Or cool. So is there any one that's like kind of your focus, or you kind of just like to just be strong in general, or
Um, I think it's definitely a tie in between my feelings of powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting. I love them both a lot. And then strongman's just kind of like really fun. So I'll just do that when I have time to. But it's so taxing on your body that I have to like see what I'm paying
yeah,
attention to at the time.
yeah. I've dabbled in a couple myself, and I'm always like wrecked. Like if I'm like okay,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna stick.
I'm a performers, my bad.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stick to this benching and squatting and deadlifting over here, and I'm gonna let the 6'7", 400 pound men like they can take the strongman stuff. That's fine. Cool. So I want to rewind a little bit and tell us. So actually, before we started recording, we talked about your first meet ever was like the
Yeah.
longest like meet ever, but you still stuck with it, which is cool. But how did you actually first get into powerlifting and strength training in general, and what kind of like led you to actually like competing for the first time?
Um, so I was like a little goblin-y fat kid for a long time, like huge, and I had like these sweet bangs, and like I was a mess. It was gross. So after a while, I was like, I gotta do something about this, and I wasn't really doing much, but I started running a lot with like my dad and stuff, and I went from like big to like fluffy, and then by the end of college I was too skinny, but I had like body dysmorphia by that time. I feel like it happens to a lot of women, especially with like how you're supposed to look and all that stuff.
Sure.
So I got bored and I didn't like how I looked, so I'm like looking for stuff to do, nothing was working. And then a friend of mine, he had to try hard, but he dragged me to a YMCA one day because I was terrified. I was like, no, I'm going to get huge. I don't want to lift stuff. Please don't make me lift stuff. And then I ended up going with him anyway. I ended up really liking it. He made like a whole program for me. His friends went anyway, so we had like a little group. Um, I started like turned into kind of obsessed, and then I found like a strength training gym in the Boston area at the time, Total Performance Sports. I went there. They had an Olympic weightlifting camp. I started doing that. I really liked that, but I was also very frustrated that I couldn't learn the movements, but I could do powerlifting movements, and at the time I didn't understand why. So then I started doing those, and then about half a year into that, I was like, I want to compete, and that's when I went to that lovely Connecticut meet. But I ended up having a lot of fun, and it all just like spiraled from there.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, obviously like a lot has changed since then. You know, was there any kind of like defining moment where you kind of wanted to take lifting a little bit more seriously to the next level? Like, for those of the people that don't know that are watching, so I just saw you compete at USAPL Nationals. What place did you actually end up taking?
Fifth.
Yeah, so that's like pretty in a tough field. Fifth out of how many? 30, 40 people is pretty awesome. Maybe you want to do a little better, but that's a big accomplishment to be fifth at a big meet like that. So was there anything kind of like that? It was like, man, I could be pretty good at this. I want to take this a little bit more serious, or I want to put a little bit more time and effort into it. Was there any kind of like defining moment, or when you realized like you want to really kind of take it to the next level?
I mean, I was never really like good at sports or any like team kind of thing, and I didn't really do anything in school. And then when I found powerlifting and weightlifting, I was like genuinely happy doing those things. Like I loved doing it. And then I kept growing and my feelings didn't change. And then like after a while I was like, I want to keep doing this. And that was pretty much it. I don't know when it happened. I just didn't stop doing it. Yeah.
So it just kind of was like natural, kind of organic over time, and you weren't really focused too
Yeah.
much. You weren't really too much focused on like certain like maybe numbers, but you just focusing on like I enjoy this. I'm going to keep doing it, and you just kind of naturally kind of got better. Is that kind of
Yeah.
fair to
Because
say?
first I wanted to lose weight or whatever. You want to look a certain way. And then after a while you're like, oh, I hit this number, but I want this number. Or like, oh, my friend just hit 275. Well, now I have to hit 275. And then it just like kind of, I don't know, it snowballs. Or like, oh, I did this at a meet. Now I want to go to another meet. I think I can do better. And it just keeps going and going and going.
Cool. And what was I know? So I know you know you had a couple. I know I was actually was handling a couple of people, so I was actually watching you during the deadlifts. Kind of frustrating. You didn't get a couple of lifts passed. So what was it like competing on a big stage and maybe you know you didn't have a couple of calls go your way and then you kind of had to like keep focused. What was that like and how did you like kind of overcome that and kind of stick with it so you can ultimately ended up you know like I said placing very well even with a couple like mishaps. So
I think it was probably like one of the most stressful but rewarding meets I've had because I don't think I've been in a position like that before, probably since my very first meet. But this was like much bigger. I don't
yeah,
think nothing really bothered me until I missed my first attempt, and then I started getting nervous because I had certain goals in my head that I knew I couldn't hit now, and I
yeah,
didn't want to accept it, but I kind of had to. So luckily, my coaches were there to calm me down mentally, and I just had to pretty much lock it up and make sure I didn't bomb out. But afterwards, it was a lot better. I was relieved. That's probably, yeah, relief is the best word for that.
great. Well, I was happy to see you get some white lights after that. So that was way to come back.
Yeah.
If someone was like in that situation where it was like maybe it's a big meet, maybe it's just a local contest where they missed their opener or whatever it is, and it's kind of like you know it's a weight they've kind of you know done a million times before. It's obviously frustrating. What advice can you give them to kind of like okay, well I need to like kind of calm myself down. I got to worry.
Yeah.
I got to worry about the next one now. That what passes in the past. What advice can you kind of give someone if that happens like to them?
Um, Pretty much like you said, you gotta force yourself to calm down and just be confident and make sure that you get it. Like, it doesn't even matter if you look crazy and you have to, like, talk to yourself in the corner. Like, whatever you need to do to get into that mindset, just do it. Because if you get too emotional or you start doubting yourself, that's when you can fail.
Cool. I think that's
So,
really great advice. So just kind of like so another thing, you know, again, what I've kind of noticed about like your kind of like social media and stuff. A lot of people's social media, it's like kind of like their highlight reel of like their bet. You know, with you, sometimes you post like misses and things like that. Like sometimes you're like literally like like doing like somersaults and like falling over. Because obviously weightlifting, you know, it's a little bit. You need a little more precision in powerlifting. For those you know people that aren't familiar. So like literally sometimes you're like literally falling down with weight, and sometimes but you always find a way to kind of get back up, and it seems like you know it doesn't really like get to you, whereas someone else like might be embarrassed to even post it or whatever. Not that you had to post your fails, but um, it's just something that I thought that was just kind of interesting and kind of unique to like you and like what you do, and I think that's cool to people like see like well we're all human, we do miss, we do fail sometimes,
yeah.
and that's okay. So can you talk to us a little bit about like that and like what your mindset is like just kind of after you miss a lift like and kind of like
Yeah.
pushing ahead like after that.
Well, I feel like a lot of people will see athletes and they'll just be like, oh, they're just lucky, or like, oh, they're just really good at that. Like, we have horrible days. Like, maybe it's one day, maybe it's a week, maybe it's a month. Like,
Yeah.
you're always going to fail, and you can't grow without failing. So you have to kind of just force yourself to accept it. So on like bad days like that, um, I don't know. I just try not to get bummed out. If I have to lower the weight, then so be it. But it's better than like quitting for the day, because that's not going to get you anywhere. So you have to like suck it up and be like, okay, this is not a good day. What can I do? And then just do that.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Like, there's nothing wrong with like if it's not happening today, like take a little weight off the bar, do what you can. Maybe you kind of move on to the next exercise. Maybe, like you said, you drop down and weight a little bit, and just get into work that you kind of like planned. And
Yeah.
like I said, if you got to make an adjustment, there's nothing wrong with that because, like I said, life happens sometimes, and sometimes like things are just not explainable, and like a weight that you normally like move really well, just for whatever reason it's just not happening, and that's okay. So don't be. I think sometimes people like are too like rigid with their program and that they don't like regulate it at all. And I might, as a coach, I might have something down on paper, but if I see someone just like not having it today, then and there's going to be other times where it's like, hey, like you look really good today. Let's maybe put a little more weight on, and let's like kind of cook when the iron's hot. And those are obviously the more fun days.
Yes.
But so you got to take the good with the bad. And I think with the bad days, it makes you appreciate the good days that much more, especially if you've had like a couple of bad workouts in a row. Having like trying to find the positive in it, I think is big. Really cool. So besides like the stuff we talked about already, I know you talked about like the body dysmorphia a little bit. So maybe if you want to talk about that, but have you ever dealt with any adversity or setbacks? And if so, how did you kind of overcome it?
Um. So, I mean, in terms of the body dysmorphia, I feel like it's almost every girl growing up now, just because of what you see. So it's like, I don't look like that. Why don't I look like that? And then I feel like the U.S. at least isn't really educated in proper strength and conditioning and like things that people see they could achieve. They just don't know how to. And we don't have like weightlifting programs in schools. We don't have like a real team. It's not big here.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really needs to change, because it would change a lot about how people think in terms of what a woman should look like and strength and all of that. And it messes with you, which is not fantastic. But in terms of setbacks, I don't know. I mean, I can't remember what year it was. Maybe when I first started, I registered for nationals a previous year, and then the week before, I just like annihilated my knee. I have no idea. I think it was from squatting incorrectly. I'd try to walk and it would just stop working. I had to drop out of nationals, and then I had to do about 3 or 4 months of rehab, which was just hamstring work and box squats for a really long time. And then after that, I was kind of scared to squat again, and my squat got messed up for way over a year. And that was pretty frustrating. And then right when my knees started to feel better, a few months ago, I was doing farmers with, they were like handmade farmers I had outside, and it was windy. I had never experienced this in my life. I dropped them, and they both turned in, and one of them sliced my knee open. And it was the same knee. And I was like, oh, good. This is great. But I didn't want to go to the doctor because they would tell me to stop using it. So I glued it back together for like a week and just like taped it and tried to do stuff from blocks until I could squat again. And that was probably the only things I've had to deal with. But they both worked out. My knees are cool. I'm squatting.
So just basically, if someone's kind of like in a similar situation, like you said, you kind of modified some of the exercises, kind of did what you could, took a little time off, and what did you squat at nationals this year?
I think a little shy of 300.
Cool.
290 something.
292 or 297, whatever the kilo number is.
The
Cool.
kilos.
Yeah, those kilos are crazy. Yeah, so I think a lot of times people, especially because I have a lot of girls that aren't even like a year into it. I think the people don't want to hear like you may need to take 6 months to rehab an injury. You may need to take a year to kind of rehab an injury, but that doesn't mean like you're out of the game. I think having that patience is really important. Like I said, just focusing on like you said before, focusing on doing what you can, not what you can't. So like I said, doing maybe the box squats or hamstring work or whatever you can do to kind of get yourself a little bit better. I think that is great, and I think there's nothing wrong with pulling out of a meet if you're not ready. I think that, you just gotta there's a difference between like kind of just being scared, and there's a difference between actually being like physically hurt, and just making sure you don't want to so just kind of identify like what the situation is and make the best decision kind of moving forward. Because what's great about powerlifting is that there's always going to be another meet. It's like not so I think that's really great advice. Very cool. So my next question is I always like to ask if someone was like kind of on the fence of starting, maybe they're a little scared to kind of enter a powerlifting gym or be on a powerlifting team, do a meet. What would you kind of say to them, and what advice can you give to a woman that's kind of starting out?
Well, I was terrified as well, and I think a lot of it is people don't really like the typical gym environment. They think people are judging them, or they're going to judge them. They don't think they're going to do something right, or they just misinterpret what it's like to strength train. And I'd probably, I don't know, just give it a chance. The people there are very, very nice. I think the powerlifting community is probably the nicest group of people I've ever met in my life. They're super supportive. I've gotten nothing but help since I started. I'm actually very surprised because I was very much against almost all sports growing up because of the attitudes of other people.
Sure.
And these people are amazing. So don't be scared.
Don't be scared. Yeah, I agree. I think especially, obviously there's going to be jerks and bad people wherever you go in any sport, but I do think like as a whole, the powerlifting community, like it's very supportive, and it's one of those few sports where like sometimes like your kind of like opponent or your competition is actually cheering you on to like make a lift, and that's really cool. Yeah, that is pretty rare to find. So I think at the end of the day, we're kind of all in this together. We're all trying to like be a little stronger, be a little better version of ourselves, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of the sport. That's why we're kind of doing this podcast, and hopefully it inspires you to kind of just get started and just give it a try and see if you like it. Because I think a lot of times you don't realize, like I said, you don't realize like how good it really feels to like do a meet, get on a platform, and kind of hit your first total. It's definitely something I really can't explain. You just kind of have to experience for yourself. So
yeah,
very cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on the call. We're gonna close out the recording soon, but you can definitely stay on after we're done. Where can people find more about you if they want to see what you're doing?
I'm on Instagram. I'm pretty much only on Instagram. My name is Smashley Spendby. The last one's tongue twister. But yeah, I post every day. So
just Smashley Spendby, no underscores or anything, just a whole word. Good. The underscores can get a little crazy sometimes. So that's good. Cool. So definitely give Ashley a follow. She's a great lifter. Like I said, it was great to see you at Nationals this year, so we hope to see you kind of come back even stronger next time. If this interview helped you, please share it. Give the podcast a 5-star review. It helps other people find us. And thanks, guys, for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.